Now, whether you like China or not, there is one thing that all of us can agree on. China's infrastructure and the pathways for Chinese citizens to create personal wealth have changed tremendously over the past 50 years. But despite the economic success, there are many Westerners around the world that claim China's government has not changed at all. And as a result, even today, many Chinese citizens lack many basic human rights and personal freedoms. 2021 is an important year for the country of China. The Communist Party celebrates its 100-year anniversary this year, and while it's true that Chinese citizens have not experienced an increase in political freedom, it's also true that they have experienced an explosion in personal freedom all within the country of China. And I believe this is a direct result of a tremendous amount of change within China's one-party state. Hello everyone, my name is Cyrus Jansen. I'm an American expat and entrepreneur, and if you're new here, we make weekly vlogs about China and its role in society today. Today's video is also sponsored by Surfshark VPN, so stick around to the end of the video to learn more about this amazing company. 50 years ago, when the United States established international relations with Communist China, China had an economy that no foreigner would ever consider investing in or even collaborating cross-border. Its economy was lethargic, run down, and completely backwards to anything of a growing and prosperous nation. To give everybody some perspective, 50 years ago in China, the government would not allow its own citizens to use currency to purchase goods. Citizens instead received ration coupons from the government to redeem for rice, oil, and flour. People in China were not allowed to open a business of any kind. Almost everyone had their jobs assigned to them from the government. Having an education was looked down upon. A citizen's only job was to work for the party and fit into the system. 50 years later, everything inside the country of China has changed tremendously. China remains one of the most valuable overseas market for international investors. In 2020, as China successfully controlled the COVID-19 pandemic and saw its economy expand instead of contract, it surpassed the United States to become the world's leading destination for foreign direct investment. As Western governments around the world are calling for a decoupling from China, we are seeing something completely different. Some of the world's most successful companies, Apple, Starbucks, Tesla, Nike, Adidas, Disney, to name a few, are actually doing the opposite. They're expanding and increasing their marketing efforts within inside the Middle Kingdom. Fast forward to today, and entrepreneurship is not only encouraged, but is actually supported by China's government. The small fishing village of Shenzhen has been the fastest growing city on the planet for the past 40 years. Chinese citizens from every corner of the country flock to Shenzhen, nicknamed the Silicon Valley of China, with dreams of starting a company, raising seed capital, and expanding internationally. To increase its competitiveness in the tech space, the Shenzhen local government recently announced that top technological and scientific talent will have their taxes reduced from 45% down to 15%. This 30% difference will actually be supplemented from the Chinese government. This is how China is growing so fast and becoming the most technologically advanced country in the world. Instead of wasting money on wars and international conflicts, China takes its money and invests in its most valuable resource, itself. Having an education was once considered taboo inside the country of China. Now it is your most valuable resource, and in the eyes of China's government, one of the key methods used to reduce poverty alleviation across the country. If there's one key message I want all of you to take away from this video today, it's this. The China of today has evolved profoundly and is now closer to a Western set of values than any other point in history. Now, some people have challenged me on this thought. Critics have argued with me and said, Cyrus, China has achieved a tremendous amount of economic success, but that is the result of the strong will of the Chinese people. It has nothing to do with China's government. But is that really true? Now, many people don't know the true history of Chairman Mao and the vision that he had to work with the United States to achieve a modern and prosperous China. Before we get into these details, I want to be very upfront with you. Chairman Mao is a very controversial figure, even inside of China today. If you ask many Chinese people, the common response that you'll get is that Chairman Mao did 50% good and 50% bad. Even Chinese people that respect Chairman Mao will realize and will tell you that he certainly did make some colossal mistakes in his history. But Chairman Mao is still respected in China for one simple reason. Ultimately, it was him that united China, and it was him that established the People's Republic of China, which is still running today. Now, the gentleman at the center of this photo is John Service. an American diplomat who served in the Foreign Service in China. He was born in 1909 in Chengdu to missionary parents, and by the age of 7 had mastered the Chinese language. John Service would go on to spend a significant amount of time with Chairman Mao. In fact, he was invited into Mao's cave home, and the two men talked for 8 hours, with a break for dinner cooked by Mao's wife, Jiang Qing. When John Service met with Mao in 1944, he would have more substantial conversations with Mao than any other American government official would have for the next quarter century. This is one of the key takeaways from Mao's conversation with John Service. China must industrialize. This can be done in China only by free enterprise and with the aid of foreign capital. Chinese and American interests are correlated and similar. We can and we must work together. We will be interested in the most rapid possible development of the country on constructive and productive lines. America does not need to fear that we will not be cooperative. We must cooperate, and we must have American help. We cannot risk crossing you, cannot risk any conflict with you. Now, ultimately, Chairman Mao's message would never reach American President Franklin Delano Roosevelt, and Chairman Mao's vision of working with America to achieve a modern and successful China would never come into fruition until Deng Xiaoping changed the path of the Communist Party and began to open up in the late 1970s. Now, to give everybody some valuable perspective, I want you to watch this very short clip that is a street interview from the streets of China in 1995.
请您介绍一下，您认为中国到21世纪会是什么样子的？
我想21世纪的中国，吃的、玩的、穿的，交通都会改善很多，就这样觉得。
我想，无疑我们的开放政策，我们国家商品走向社会，走向世界，人走向世界，跟上世界潮流的发展，一定会成为世界上一流强大的国家。
我想应该和美国、日本差不多吧。应该是很有发展前途的，不过人活的应该是很累的，应该干得苦干的一个阶段。
買金好，改革開放啊嘛！改革開放，你同佢講，中國而家改革開放，30年後咧追上香港，唔單止可能仲追上日本，你話？30年。
Now, after watching that street interview, there's two main takeaways that I was able to learn. The first is that Chinese people were not afraid of hard work. China's economic success is most definitely the result of Chinese people working hard and realizing that they had an incredible opportunity ahead of them. But there's no doubt about it, none of that would have been possible without change from China's party. Again, it was the vision of China's government to open up to the United States and the rest of the world, build these international relationships, become the marketplace from the world, and again, along the way, transform the lives of hundreds of millions of Chinese people along the way. Now, to learn more about China's governmental changes, let's listen to Eric Shi Lee, who is a venture capitalist that sheds some light on this subject.
The Chinese, the party state, has proven an extraordinary ability to change. The political changes that have taken place in China in this past 66 years have been wider and broader and greater than probably any other major country in modern memory. In America, you can change political parties, but you can't change the policies. In China, you cannot change the party, but you can change policies.
Now, Eric Shi Lee is a successful venture capitalist. He's an economist, and he was born in Shanghai during the Cultural Revolution. He has studied China's Communist Party and, in fact, gave a fantastic TED speech specifically discussing how the Communist Party is actually organized. I would encourage anybody, if you're interested to actually learn how China's government is structured and actually works, check out his TED Talk. I'll leave the link down in the description below. But now that we've successfully looked at the past and seen how China's government actually has changed, let's look at the future. Let's look at right now. How is China's government actually changing right now and actually making citizens' lives better? Earlier this year, the Chinese government announced 13 new laws that went into effect on March 1st, 2021. Now, I'm not going to go through all 13 laws, but I'm going to highlight a handful of them to give you a valuable perspective. Over the past 2 years, several child molestation cases have been brought to light, and the public demanded harsher sentences for such heinous crimes, and that call has now been answered. In recent years, there have been incidences where passengers got into arguments with bus drivers and assaulted them or tried to interfere with the driving of the bus. This is now classified as a criminal activity. In the past couple of years, several scandals broke out with people stealing others' identities during the famous Gaokao, which is China's college entry examination. These scandals typically involved corrupt local high school officials, and although this has always been illegal, it will now be more severely punished. Last December, several prominent writers were involved in plagiarism scandals and came out to apologize for betraying the public's trust. Chinese citizens demanded stronger copyright protection laws, and this has also been passed. Finally, the pharmaceutical industry has been tightening in China for several years now, and the price of most essential medicine and medical procedures are regulated by the government, so the hospitals and pharmaceutical companies cannot price gouge. Now, once again, the 5 laws that I just mentioned were actually part of a group of 13 new laws that passed into legislation on March 1st, 2021. And the really interesting thing about these 13 new laws is the fact that almost all of them were a direct result of public outcry and demand following several high-profile cases inside of China. Now, most Westerners would never believe that Chinese citizens actually have an opportunity to express their concern and express their desire for change. And this is the interesting thing. China's government listens to the Chinese people, and often, not always, but certainly often enough, it does change the laws inside the country as a result. To further illustrate my point, consider this. In 2020, Bilibili, which is China's equivalent to YouTube, the most popular content creator of the year award went to Luo Xiang, a law professor whose channel focuses on sharing legal knowledge. He often uses high-profile cases to point out loopholes in the existing criminal code. Imagine that. China's #1 content creator is a law professor who spends his time exposing loopholes in China's legal system. And how does the government respond? By giving him a national award and making changes. Now, as we come to the conclusion of this video, I'm going to leave you with one final argument and a very valuable piece of perspective. Many Western countries around the world seem very intent on changing the government of China. Many people say that they want to take down the Communist Party of China and that they must bring democracy to liberate the people of China. But I think that you can see in today's video is that China's government, the one-party state, is vastly different. Again, go back to that key takeaway. If there's one thing I want you to remember, it is that the government of China and the Chinese society today has never been closer to a Western set of values than any other point in history. And I really hope that you can see the facts that I presented in today's video and really see that China's government is, was, and always will be changing. To give you a valuable comparison, I'm going to introduce you to former US President Woodrow Wilson. Now, Woodrow Wilson was an avid supporter of the Ku Klux Klan, and he actually passed in legislation to segregate blacks from whites in America. Interesting enough, Woodrow Wilson was a member of the Democratic Party. And what is the current party that is running the United States government? Of course, it's the Democratic Party. Now, are we going to say that Joe Biden is a racist because he represents the Democratic Party and that in the past they made mistakes? Of course not, because exactly like China's one-party state, the Democratic Party of today is very different from the past. So if we're going to hold China responsible for its past, let's hold the United States responsible for its past too. Or we can simply just be rational adults and realize that governments around the world are constantly changing. Now, many of the facts that I was able to present in today's video came from a recent article that I read entitled "Engagement, Not Enragement is the Key to a Relationship with China." This was recently published in Canada, and I will give a full link to this article down below. I highly recommend all of you to read it. Everybody, I want to thank you so much for watching today's video, and I want to give a huge shout out to the sponsor of today's video, who is Surfshark VPN. Now, none of us are traveling around the world right now. Obviously, we're in the middle of a pandemic, but it's really important that not only for traveling, but no matter where you are, no matter what you're doing, you should have your data secured. And the best way to do that is through a virtual private network. Now, I've partnered with Surfshark VPN, and I'll be very upfront and honest with you. I really like the team at Surfshark VPN because they approached me, they got behind the channel, they really believe in the message that we are delivering on this channel, and they want to support me. And I'm an independent content creator, so I really rely on the support of our supporters like yourselves, or amazing companies like Surfshark VPN. So I'm just honestly asking you, if you're in the market for a VPN, really give Surfshark VPN a try. The service is fast, it's affordable, it's extremely easy to use, and the best part is that I can save you 83% off the retail purchase. Simply just use the checkout code CYRUS at checkout to get 83% off. And if you're a little bit nervous about signing up through some random internet link, I want you to understand that Surfshark is going to offer you a free 30-day money-back guarantee. In addition, because you're one of my subscribers and you're one of my followers here on the channel, they're going to gift you an extra 3 months of service. So again, I want to give a huge thank you to Surfshark VPN for sponsoring today's video. And again, I want to thank all of you for your continued support. Again, when the United States and China work together, the entire world is going to win. And again, it is so important that we truly understand what's happening inside the country of China today. I think you guys saw in today's video, it's very clear, it's very obvious that China and its government has changed. So let's go ahead and learn to build bridges, not wars. That is what we're doing on this channel. Again, thank you Surfshark VPN. Thank you all for your continued support. If you're not already, hit that subscribe button, and I can't wait to see you guys in the next video.